Her voice dropped to a whisper. The alien woman wanted no more words. The translator's challenge. The transport shuttle descended through Thessera's violet-tinged atmosphere, and Lyra Naveen pressed her face against the viewport, watching clouds swirl like lavender silk. 3 years of studying Thesseran linguistics had led to this moment, her first real diplomatic assignment. Her fingers drummed nervously against her knee as the sprawling capital city of Valeris emerged below, its crystalline towers reflecting the light of twin suns. The landing platform bustled with activity. Lyra adjusted her translator badge and stepped into the warm, fragrant air that smelled of night-blooming jasmine and something metallic she couldn't identify. Her liaison was supposed to meet her here. Lyra Naveen. The voice was smooth, controlled, with a melodic quality that made her name sound like music. She turned and felt her breath catch. The Thesseran man standing before her had silver-tinted skin that seemed to shimmer faintly in the sunlight, and eyes the color of deep amethyst. His dark hair was pulled back in an intricate braid, and he wore formal robes of midnight blue that suggested high rank. "I am Zephyr Kalon, Senior Mediator for the Thesseran Council. Welcome to our world." He inclined his head in formal greeting, but his expression remained unreadable. "Thank you. I'm honored to assist with the negotiations." Lyra extended her hand, a human gesture of greeting. Zephyr stared at her outstretched hand for a long moment before placing his palm against hers vertically, the Thesseran way. His skin was surprisingly warm. "Your reputation as a linguist precedes you. I trust you understand the delicacy of these trade discussions." "I've reviewed all the preliminary documents," she replied, withdrawing her hand perhaps a bit too quickly. Something about his intense gaze unsettled her. Documents cannot capture nuance. His tone was cool, almost dismissive. Thesseran communication relies heavily on subtlety and context. Your human directness may prove challenging. Lyra felt heat rise to her cheeks. "My directness has served me well in 7 previous assignments. Perhaps your people could benefit from clearer communication." A flicker of something, surprise? Amusement, crossed Zephyr's face before his mask of formality returned. "We shall see, translator. The welcome banquet begins in 2 hours. I suggest you prepare yourself." The Garden of Luminous Stones. The disaster at the banquet still burned in Lyra's mind as she and Zephyr walked through the darkened corridors toward the luminous gardens. She'd misinterpreted a trade delegate's question about water-sharing customs, not realizing it was actually a marriage proposal metaphor. The room had erupted in confusion, and only Zephyr's quick intervention had prevented a complete breakdown of talks. "I should have warned you about contextual metaphors," Zephyr admitted quietly, the first hint of softness she'd heard in his voice. "I should have asked more questions," Lyra replied, matching his stride as they exited into the night air. The gardens stretched before them, thousands of luminous stones embedded in the ground creating patterns of light that shifted like living constellations. "Thank you for covering for me. The ceremonial stone is somewhere in the Eastern Grove. It must be returned before tomorrow's session as a gesture of renewed commitment." Zephyr gestured toward a pathway that seemed to float above pools of glowing water. "We should hurry." They walked in silence for a while, the only sound their footsteps on the crystalline path and the gentle hum of nocturnal insects. The stones cast everything in shades of blue and green, making Zephyr's features even more striking. "Why did you become a mediator?" Lyra asked, surprising herself with the personal question. Zephyr paused, studying a cluster of particularly bright stones. "My family has served the council for 6 generations. It was expected. And you? Why chase words across the galaxy?" "Words are bridges," she said simply. "I grew up on a colony station where 5 different species lived together. I watched people connect despite impossible differences. I wanted to be part of that." Something shifted in Zephyr's expression. "You believe in connection, then? Even between very different worlds?" "Especially between different worlds. That's when it matters most." She met his eyes, and for a moment, neither looked away. A rumble of thunder broke the spell. Zephyr glanced skyward where dark clouds were gathering impossibly fast. "Storm season. We need shelter." Rain began falling in warm, heavy drops as they ran toward a nearby crystal alcove. By the time they ducked inside, they were both drenched. Lyra laughed, pushing wet hair from her face, and heard Zephyr's low chuckle in response, the first genuine sound of amusement he'd made. "Your directness," he said softly. "Perhaps it is not so terrible after all." When silence speaks louder. The tension in the private conference room was suffocating. For 3 days, negotiations had deteriorated as the Thesseran Council demanded stricter controls on human mining operations, while Earth's representatives insisted on current agreements. Lyra had barely slept, translating increasingly hostile exchanges while trying to find diplomatic middle ground. Zephyr paced near the window, his usual composure cracking. "Your people take without understanding what they destroy. The mining zones are sacred meditation grounds. And your people hold onto tradition while rejecting progress," Lyra shot back, exhaustion making her reckless. "Earth needs those resources. Millions depend on this trade. So tradition means nothing? Connection to land, to history, these are expendable for your convenience." His voice rose, frustration finally breaking through. "That's not what She stopped, seeing pain flash across his face. "Zephyr, I'm trying to help both sides. Where do your loyalties truly lie, Lyra Naveen?" He turned to her, violet eyes blazing. "You speak our words, walk our gardens, but your heart." "My heart." She moved closer, anger and something deeper surging through her. "You want to know about my heart?" He took a step toward her, then another, until only breath separated them. "I want," his voice dropped to barely a whisper, the words seeming to fail him entirely. Zephyr's eyes locked onto hers with an intensity that made the room disappear. In that charged silence, Lyra saw everything he couldn't say: desire, conflict, hope, fear. The space between them hummed with electric possibility. She rose on her toes and kissed him. For a heartbeat, he remained still, then his arms wrapped around her waist, pulling her closer as he kissed her back with careful urgency. His lips were soft, warm, tasting faintly of the spiced tea they drank during negotiations. Lyra's fingers tangled in his dark hair, loosening the intricate braid. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Zephyr rested his forehead against hers. "This is dangerous." "I know," she whispered. "If anyone discovers." "I know." She cupped his face gently. "But I can't unknow this feeling." His thumb traced her jawline with heartbreaking tenderness. "Neither can I. But we must be careful. For both our worlds." They stood holding each other as stars emerged outside, two people from different worlds finding unexpected connection in the language of touch and silence. Secrets in the starlight. Darian Reeves, Earth Security Attaché and Lyra's longtime colleague, cornered her outside the translation suite. "You've been distracted. Missing details in briefings. What's going on?" Lyra kept her expression neutral. "The negotiations are complex, Darian. I'm managing. I've known you for 5 years. You don't just manage." His eyes narrowed. "Does this have something to do with the Thesseran mediator? I've noticed you two disappearing at odd hours." "We're working on cultural clarifications," she lied smoothly, hating the deception. "Nothing more." Meanwhile, Zephyr faced similar scrutiny from Alara Vin, his senior advisor. "The human translator is influencing your judgment. I've reviewed your recent proposals. They favor Earth's position more than appropriate." "I'm seeking balance, as always," Zephyr replied calmly, though his heart raced. "Humans are notoriously unreliable in matters of the heart," Alara warned. "Do not let momentary attraction compromise our people's future." That night, Lyra and Zephyr met on a secluded balcony overlooking Valeris. The twin moons cast silver light across the city's crystal spires. Zephyr pulled her close, breathing in the scent of her hair. "They're watching us," Lyra murmured against his shoulder. "I know. Alara practically accused me of treason today." He tilted her chin up, kissing her softly. "Worth it, though." She smiled, tracing the unique patterns on his silver-tinted skin that she'd come to adore. "Darian thinks I've lost focus. If he knew the truth." We could stop, Zephyr offered, though his arms tightened around her. Could you? She searched his eyes. No, he admitted, kissing her again, deeper this time. When I'm with you, I feel like myself for the first time in years. Not just a mediator, not just a representative. Just me. I love the you that you are, Lyra whispered, the first time either had used that word. Zephyr's breath caught. Lyra. Wait. Look. She pointed to her datapad where an encrypted file had appeared. Darian sent this. Something about irregularities in the mining reports. They reviewed the documents together, and horror dawned slowly. Someone was falsifying data on both sides, making Earth's mining operations appear more destructive than they were while hiding Thessera's own environmental violations. This is sabotage, Zephyr breathed. Someone wants these talks to fail. We need to find proof, Lyra said, her mind already racing. But who can we trust? Zephyr took her hand, fingers intertwining. Each other. Only each other. 2 worlds, 1 heart. The final negotiation session began with formal pleasantries, but Lyra and Zephyr exchanged knowing glances. They'd spent the previous night gathering evidence, barely sleeping, sustained by determination and stolen kisses in between research sessions. Now they had proof of the conspiracy. A faction on the Sara opposed to any human contact had been working with Earth corporations who wanted to justify stripping mining regulations. Halfway through the session, as tensions rose again, Zephyr stood. I request a recess. The translator and I have uncovered information crucial to these proceedings. Murmurs rippled through both delegations. Lyra activated the holographic display, showing falsified reports, intercepted communications, and financial trails. The evidence was damning and undeniable. Chaos erupted. Accusations flew. But gradually, shock turned to understanding. The real enemies of peace were exposed, and delegates from both sides began speaking to each other with new openness. During the break, Darian approached Lyra. I'm sorry I doubted you. That was brilliant work. He hesitated. The Thesseran mediator, you care about him, don't you? Lyra met his eyes. Yes. I do. Then be careful, but be happy. That's rare enough to protect. When the session reconvened, the atmosphere had transformed. Zephyr proposed a new framework, not just trade agreements, but cultural exchange programs, including provisions for personal relationships between species. Elara tried to object, but other Thesseran councillors supported the idea enthusiastically. The treaty was signed as the twin suns set, painting the sky in shades of violet and gold. Lyra and Zephyr stood together on the balcony afterward, no longer hiding. They'll scrutinize us constantly, Zephyr said, pulling her close. Let them watch. Lyra turned in his arms, cupping his face. Let them see that love doesn't recognize borders or species. He kissed her tenderly, then deeper, pouring everything they'd held back into that connection. When they finally parted, both were smiling. Your silence that night, Lyra remembered. When your voice dropped to a whisper and you couldn't find words, that's when I truly heard you. Sometimes the heart speaks loudest when the voice falls quiet, Zephyr agreed, resting his forehead against hers as stars began emerging overhead. They stood together watching 2 worlds' moons rise over the city where they'd found each other, proof that sometimes, the most important truths need no translation at all. Lessons in love. True connection transcends the barriers of language, culture, and origin. When hearts speak, no words are necessary. Love requires courage to bridge differences and wisdom to honor what makes each person unique. The silence between 2 souls who understand each other holds more truth than 1,000 spoken promises.